All right, so a lot of people are asking and complaining about what's going on in California with transgenders playing in women's sports and how come this is still happening because people are like, I thought Trump signed an executive order banning this or pulling funding from this, etc. So let me break it down for you what's actually going on here and what you, yes, you, the tax-paying voter citizen, can do about it. You have to understand the chain of command: federal, state, county, city, school board. President Trump has issued executive orders threatening to revoke federal dollars if schools allow transgender athletes to play in girls' sports, have COVID 19 vaccine requirements, or teach critical race theory or gender ideology that is basically radical indoctrination. Can he decide what K through 12 schools teach? No. There are several statutes that prevent the education department, its secretary, and the federal government from muscling in on curriculum matters. Even within the last decade, Congress has tightened up this language to make clear that states set curriculum and academic standards. Case in point, only the states can decide what K through 12 schools teach. Can he freeze funding from schools that don't comply with his executive orders? No, unless he follows a multi step process. You see, it's not legal for the executive branch to unilaterally impose new restrictions on already appropriated money. And this is just federal fund dollars. Keep in mind that roughly around 10% of public school funding comes from the federal government, and the other roughly 90% come from state and local governments. But there are mechanisms for the executive branch to pull back funding from public schools if they don't comply with grant rules or civil rights laws. There are numerous steps to halting funds, however, and Congress can reverse the department's decision, as Congress controls the power of the purse. How important is federal funding for schools compared with state and local funding? As I've mentioned, around 10% of public school funds come from the federal government, and roughly about 90% come from state and local governments. Now, this is not to say federal funding is not important, because it often pays for staff and programs that districts otherwise wouldn't have the resources to offer. And it provides key support for costly services that districts are required by federal law to provide. To give just a quick example, in 2022, 6 states, Alaska, Arkansas, Mississippi, Montana, North Carolina, and South Dakota, got more than 1/5 of their K through 12 funding from the federal government. And 4 other states, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and New York, got less than 10% from federal sources. So let's bring this conversation into California. As I've mentioned, the lion's share of public school funding comes from state and local governments, cities and counties. What does this mean? This means that your main fight should be in Sacramento, not Washington, D.C. It's the one party rule in California that is ruining public school education for your children. It's also the one party rule in California that continues to allow transgenders to compete in girls' sports, thus ruining girls' sports in California. In so many words, Trump can only do so much from his position. Now, if you're like most of America and you're pissed off and you're wondering how come Trump hasn't been able to do what we just talked about because it has to go through Congress, then tell your rhino Congress members that represent you to work with them. And you, the tax-paying voting citizen, need to quit electing those rhinos. But James, the rhinos are the only ones that keep running in my district, and I either have to vote for them or the Democrat. Then start recruiting common sense, America First people that live in your district to run for Congress where you live, and start backing those candidates.